All right, let's hop right into this thing, man. We got a three-way competition going on at quarterback right now. And so far, the dark horse candidate has surprised a lot of people. Talking about Mason Rudolph, Kenny Pickett, and obviously Mitch Trubisky. Going into training camp, nobody was expecting Mason to be a front runner for any type of starting quarterback job. A lot of people didn't even think that he belonged on the team. But there still was a faction that was like, you got to be patient with my man. He's obviously taken a lot of steps and has grown a lot since that first season. We highlighted a couple of those games, obviously, we're talking about on the podcast, whether we're talking about that Detroit Lions game from a year ago, the Cleveland Browns season finale, I think it was 2 years ago. We've seen Mason come in and do some things, right? And obviously the familiarity, because when you're talking about Mason Rudolph in Matt Canada, well, he obviously goes back multiple years. He obviously had him as a quarterbacks coach. Then he had him as the offensive coordinator a year ago, and now obviously this year as well. So there is a lot of continuity there. There's a lot of familiarity there. And from my perspective, I don't think that it should be as big of a surprise that Mason is playing well at the early portion of training camp. Now, granted, with that, it obviously you have to take it with a grain of salt in the sense of Mason, he's protecting the ball, right? Not turning it over. In contrast to what we're hearing from Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett, who obviously have multiple turnovers. But the thing with Mason that continues to show up on his tape, and this is why there is a little bit of a knock on him, is the fact that he's still not taking shots downfield. He's not willing to stretch the ball. He's not willing to stretch the field as frequently as Mitch and Kenny are. And now part of the reason with that has been why he's been clean in terms of not having the turnovers. But part of the other reason in terms of why that be viewed as a negative is just because he's seeing his reads early in terms of his tight ends, his running backs for the checkdowns. But if he would just take a little bit more of a chance, maybe he could open this offense up a lot more, especially when you're hearing about how well the young Ricky George Pickens is playing. You would like to see him potentially build a little bit of a rapport with him. But that's the Mason Rudolph element of it, right? Now, when we're talking about Mitch Trubisky, well, he's the unique one, right? Because he obviously has the high-end pedigree, being a former top, number 2 overall selection in the draft. Obviously, he's had a Pro Bowl season. He's taken a team to the postseason. And coming into Pittsburgh this spring, he really showed a lot. To me, being a guy that watched every single OTA and minicamp practice, to me, he seemed like the front runner. He seemed like the guy that was the most mature, the most pro-ready, the most ready to be the Steelers' Week 1 starter. But now we're having to see a different version. We're seeing him struggle a little bit early on in training camp, and now this is the unique part for him. How does he handle this type of adversity? Because coming out of OTAs, he was getting all the praise. It was Mitch is the quarterback, Mitch is the guy, Mitch has a sizable lead, right? A sizable gap in this competition. Well, now you're hearing the reports that Mason Rudolph has really been turning a lot of heads. Mason Rudolph has really been doing some positive things, and Mitch has been struggling. So this is the part for me where I'm excited, and this is the part where I'm glad that Coach Tomlin said he was not going to micromanage this quarterback competition. Because if you're micromanaging it, well, now you're going to react abruptly. You're going to react very in a knee-jerk manner. And you're going to just start making switches. And you don't need to just yet. It's still early. They haven't even put the pads on. That comes on Monday, baby. You know we can't wait for that. But going back to my man Mitch Trubisky right here. For me, man, with Mitch, he just has to understand that you're going to have your growing pains. You're going to have your ups. You're going to have your downs. You're going to have practices where you come out there and you look amazing. He was able to string together a ton of practices in a row where he looked extremely good in the springtime. Well, now you're having a little bit of a rough patch. How can you get yourself out of that? How many practices is it going to take for you to turn it around, for you to get that competition back by the reins and go ahead and do what you were doing in the spring? That's the part for me where I'm excited to see how Mitch responds after this first week of training camp practice. Now, the third guy, Kenny Pickett. Now, we know going into OTAs, it was a lot of hype. It was a lot of expectations being put on him because of the draft status, because of obviously him having the Pittsburgh connection, playing at Pitt and things like that. And we talked about how it was a mixed bag during the OTA period where he would struggle at times, but you could see the athletic ability, you could see the raw talent in terms of why the Steelers took him where they did. Well, now, similar things are happening, but they're happening in front of fans. They're happening in front of all of the media, and now the reports are coming out. We're talking about, or people are beginning to see how it is not as easy to just come in here as a rookie at the quarterback position and have success right out the gate. So when we're hearing the reports of the interceptions that he's been throwing, the struggles that he's been having, don't overreact to it. If anything, this is normal. This is okay. I mean, we talk about Ben Roethlisberger. Well, going into week 1 of his rookie year, if I remember correctly, he wasn't QB1. Might not have been even QB2, just depending on who you ask. So with that, you knew that, hey man, there was time. You had time. He could develop. Patrick Mahomes, another guy. I mean, we could go down the list of quarterbacks who ended up being really, really good, some even great, who struggled early on, who didn't have the smoothest of transitions. Don't write him off. I think the biggest thing with Kenny is he just has to go through these growing pains. He's going to have some practices where he's going to look amazing. You keep your head down, you keep working. He's going to have practices where he struggles, where he might throw multiple interceptions. It doesn't matter. Keep your head down, keep working. Because as a rookie, he doesn't know what he doesn't know just yet. He's still trying to figure it out. He's getting acclimated to the speed at the NFL level, in each and every phase of the season, off season included, has a different tempo. Rookie minicamp is one speed. OTAs is another speed. Veteran minicamp, the next speed. Training camp, we turn it up. Now when you throw those pads on, that's going to go a whole nother speed. And then when you get to the preseason games and so forth, you will notice an uptick in tempo, an uptick in intensity. And that's the thing that Kenny is just getting acclimated and ultimately having to adjust to. So I wouldn't overreact to it, and there's still a chance that he might start at some point in time this season. Me personally, I don't want that. I kind of want the young guy to have a full year to just develop, get acclimated, and get comfortable, because once you roll him out, you can't bring it back. You can't do it. So for me, I want that rollout to be as smooth and as flawless as possible, and I know from personal experience, time helps with that. But we will see, man, because obviously, when you're talking wins and losses, if the quarterbacks ahead of Kenny aren't doing what they need to do, and the team isn't looking the way they need to look, you're going to have a hard time keeping that guy on the sideline. You're going to have a hard time keeping the media and the fans from demanding to see him as well. So that's the interesting and unique part with Kenny. But from a first week perspective, a first week recap, I do feel that it is Mason that has, I don't want to say he's past Mitch, but he has definitely caught up to Mitch in a sense, because of how well he's looked these first couple of practices, and because of how Mitch Trubisky and Kenny have struggled in these early portions of training camp. But we're one weekend, so we will see how these guys respond. They're going to get the day off on Sunday. Then after that, we'll start it back up and in pads. So we will see. But I want to know from you, man, how are you feeling right now about this 3-man competition? We obviously know the various reports about the amount of reps certain guys are getting and certain guys not getting. Kenny Pickett not getting certain reps in different situations. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about this quarterback competition as a whole? Do you think it needs to be evenly divided in terms of the practice reps, or do you like how it's going so far? Or do you think that they should just say, hey, this is our guy, like the San Francisco 49ers did, and kind of end all of the side talk, and then you start to build your season and get prepared right now? Either way, you let me know. I appreciate you for tuning in. Oh, and if you haven't done so, hit that like button and subscribe. But either way, I appreciate you. And until next time, baby, peace.